All right. Hey, guys, we'll start with Tom, opening statement, and then go into questions.
Good morning, everyone. Feels weird not having you guys all in here, but I guess this is the new normal for what we got to do. So, but we'll knock it out here just like we always would. But really excited to get back today. It was great to get back on the field with our team. We had a chance to have these walkthroughs the last several days, which was good leading up to fall camp. But it's nothing like getting out there where you have all your equipment at your disposal and just helmets on. But a lot of good energy and effort. I loved the focus of our guys. I really felt like all those walkthrough days that we just came off of, even though we didn't get the full amount of them because of having our team in quarantine, but it was still very, very evident that those reps and just all the organizational piece with that allowed us to have a much crisper, sharper, practice number one. So really encouraged by that. Feel like that's something that helped us have a better day today. Really need to get the guys out there, getting them flying around, catching balls, tagging off full speed defensively, pursuing the football. A lot of positive things, really good energy. Love our team. Just got a lot of really hungry guys that really enjoy being around each other. I think that's probably been the biggest challenge of this whole time is just being apart. They really do enjoy being with each other and hanging out together. That's been something that's really, I think been hard on them these last several months. So really trying to do everything we can to protect our guys, the way we practice the structure, the organization, the field use, keeping everybody spread out, doing a lot more smaller groups, more isolated individual things as much as we can. And then at the same time, when we do come together, just trying to maximize our field space, utilizing all the rules, protocols we have to follow for a certain number of guys, either in the room or on the field or in the facility. And that makes it very challenging. But we spent hours and hours and hours playing in practice, had to scrap certain plans, had to redo plans, have just really been a very interesting set of weeks leading up to all this. But it feels great to be back. And so we'll learn something more every single day to allow us to be more effective on the field. Got another helmets on in practice tomorrow, and we'll put pads on here day number 3. So anybody's got questions, let's get started.
Sammy, we'll start with you before you take off.
Awesome. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great, Sammy. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Coach, with the news of the schedule dropping and fall camp starting today, what's your message to the team about going forward, even though there's still a lot of uncertainty about if games will get played, how many games will get played, and all that stuff?
Well, that's a great question because, it came out yesterday morning. We were on our Big Ten call when they gave it to us. That was the first time I had seen it. So I was kind of going through real quickly, trying to get it all, written down. I knew I was going to eventually get a copy of it, but was just trying to get in my head about the flow of the season. And but I think the thing that sticks out to me is 2 things. Number one, emphasize the flexibility of the schedule. As you mentioned, there's a lot of uncertainty about it. You can say, yeah, we're playing this team on this certain day. We had a Zoom meeting last night with all our parents to just talk about the Big Ten's protocols that they just put out for fall camp in the season and everything that we're going to be doing. I just wanted to be able to get in front of them. But we talked about, had a lot of questions about the season itself and just different things that pertain to that. So here's been the message, and it was to our team today. We're going to focus on one thing, and that's today. I can't control tomorrow. I never have been able to control tomorrow, but more than ever, we have to focus on today. Yeah, we're going to have a plan, but man, we had a lot of plans going into all this, and most of those plans have been scrapped. So it's going to focus on the short term of today. We'll have a plan for tomorrow, schedule-wise for sure, but we're not going to go much further than that. And I challenge our players. We're going to control what we can control. We have no control whatsoever on what happens across this country, what happens other places, but we can control our mindset, the way that we attack every single day. Our one word for 2020 is relentless. So we're going to relentlessly attack today and control the things that we can control, which is our focus, our effort, and the way that we prepare. So as a staff, it's keeping our players safe and it's getting them prepared. that's the message. And it's focus on a daily focus of that and not try to go beyond it. Because if you do, you get into a lot of what ifs and a lot of different scenarios that we probably waste a lot of energy trying to figure out right now. And I know that's not always comforting to not know, where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing at certain dates, but it's reality. And I think we've all kind of been through this long enough to know that that's kind of what we're gotten used to in some ways. But from a schedule perspective, it's been put out there. That was good. It was good to know kind of even just the progression and the flow. But our job right now is to focus on today and get our team prepared.
Matt Weaver, then Tom Brew.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. Good to see you.
First off, just want to say congrats to your son and to your family. I saw where you got engaged. That's pretty awesome for you guys.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very happy for Thomas and Annika. They're two special young people. We feel blessed. Thank you.
I know obviously in the spring, that's kind of the time where you can do some experimentation, try some position changes, but obviously that was kind of robbed from you guys. There was a few guys who moved. I know David Ellis was at running back a little bit more. I think Gavin McCabe, you guys have moved to offense. Are those still in place? Are there any other position changes that I know it's only one day in, but anything you guys have kind of moved guys around to see if they fit better?
Well, as far as those two individuals, still working David at running back because, like you said, the spring was cut short. So we know what he can do at receiver. And that's, he's just one of those guys you want to get the ball to. So getting the reps at running back I thought was really important during spring and then allowing him to continue to develop in that area. But you'll see him in both spots for sure. And obviously on special teams as a return man. So I feel like that's something that we'll continue to utilize him in both as a running back and as a receiver. And then in regards to Gavin McCabe, yes, he's full-time on offense and working hard, getting bigger and stronger. And I'm really excited about his growth there and just needs reps. That was where he really needed the spring. It was unfortunate for him for sure at that position. But everybody else on the team, we made some positional moves within the defense, and those have all pretty much stayed true to what we did during spring football. But once again, there's a lot of versatility back there. Jamar Johnson can play really all three safety positions, and that's really important for us. And Raheem Lane is at safety right now. We know he can play corner. That versatility, flexibility is going to be really, really important. And Bryant Fitzgerald, same thing. He can play multiple positions in the secondary. So that's going to be a big priority for us to maximize the flexibility of our guys' skill sets and allow us to put the best guys on the field.
Tom Brew, then Zach Osterman.
Morning, Coach. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hey, obviously we're looking at a schedule that's going to get condensed here pretty quickly. Basically, we're 4 weeks and a day away from a game if all goes well. And I know you have talked about repeated plans for how to do things. But what are your biggest concerns with now that we sort of have the window from day one of camp today to when kickoff will be? What are your biggest concerns about what you may or may not be able to get accomplished between now and then?
Well, I would just say, you talk about all the time when you're challenging your players about, hey, you can't cheat the game. Well, what does that mean? That means that you can't take shortcuts. You have to prepare a certain way to play. Well, that goes for getting ready to play your season. And so the things that we've missed, you can't just speed that up and just say, okay, well, we didn't get to do all this. So you have to make adjustments. And so for me, the challenge is, and the balance is, how do you maximize reps, but also do a really, really good job of paying attention to the bodies of your players. So we started today. One huge blessing, I think, for us is the fact that we've got Aaron Wellman. He's coming straight from the NFL. He was a part of a committee that studied the last 5 years of training camps and how you prevent injuries, how you get your team ready for peak performance during that time, how you maximize all those things. So his expertise in that area is already been tremendously helpful, and I'm going to really rely on him heavily to make sure, because that's a big piece of getting your team physically ready to play. Because I think the mental piece, I feel good about that. One thing we were able to do in the time away with the Zoom meetings, and I thought they were extremely effective in allowing our players to really maximize their knowledge of our systems. offense, defense, and special teams, especially offense and defense. They even did a lot of good work on special teams, especially later in that time period. But you can't speed up the physical part. And so I just think the physical preparation, getting our guys' bodies right, the timing that you have lost by not having spring practices in the passing game, I think that's big. Weren't able to throw. I did not do 7-on-7s the entire summer. We usually have player practices all summer long. Did not have one of those. We're not allowed to. And so those are the challenges, is the timing that you have to have, the reps that you need, but balancing those reps with, protecting your players and not having those, those nagging or frustrating soft tissue injuries that can often limit you. So being able to utilize the wisdom and experience of Aaron Wellman from a physical perspective and matching that up with schematically helping our guys get the reps that they need to be ready to play, that's the biggest challenge.
All right, Zach, and then John Blau.
Tom, sorry, this is kind of a longer question, but earlier in the summer, you had talked about feeling like you were even kind of preaching to coaches needing to go 3 deep, basically everywhere, just to deal with potential positive tests. And I think one of the bigger questions about protocols, they were in the NCAA protocols and also in the Big Ten, is kind of this mandatory 14-day quarantine for what they call like collision contact that you can't test out of. Even if you don't test positive, if you have that contact with someone who does, you have to be quarantined for 14 days. I guess, in a sense, do you almost look at preparing for this season and say, we can't be making plans for widespread red shirts. We can't be putting ourselves in a situation where we aren't thinking about walk-ons, because you could potentially wind up in a situation where, 1 or 2 positive tests would actually wind up leading to a pretty large number of people quarantined?
Yeah, that's really that's from a physical perspective, from the health part, it's the biggest challenge, because you kind of touched on some key points. First of all, we've kind of gotten really good at the lingo of how you identify these different components, from when a person tests positive, we have a certain protocol for them, they get put in isolation. But then you also have all those that are in close contact with them, and how the CDC defines that, how the NCAA defines that, which, basically we follow the CDC. So we totally, that is absolutely what we're going to do. And then the contact tracing component, when you try to figure out who did he have contact with, he as in the person who tested positive, who did they have contact with that puts them at risk. And so then those individuals get put in a 14-day quarantine, like you mentioned. And so we've experienced that firsthand in a very, very widespread way throughout the 6 weeks we were here in the summertime. And so that, how does that look during the season? That's kind of the $1 million question. How do they, the local health group that decides that contact tracing component, once an individual tests positive, it's who does he also pull out because they were in close contact, whether as a roommate or as somebody you hung out with. And that's been the issue, is really it's what has happened away from the facility, not being, it's not happened. Things have not happened here. And obviously they go back and try and target where the contact occurred, and it's been off campus. And that was the fear from the very beginning. We feel really good about what we can do when they're with us, but what do they do when they're not with us? And so, but that to me is, now that you start practicing and you're tackling guys, because all these things were going on and we weren't blocking anybody. We weren't tackling anybody. We still haven't done that. All the walkthroughs that we had at the end of the summer here were that there was no physical contact. Even today's practice, there's no tackling, there's no blocking yet. It's closer to that because you're getting your hands on people now that we have helmets on. We're going at practice number 1, but we still haven't tackled guys and still haven't had that. So that's just a big challenge, I think, for every team right now. The NFL is dealing with all of it. We're all dealing with it as a highly, high contact sport that football is. That's where everyone's trying to figure this all out. So we don't have all the answers for that yet. We obviously will follow the protocols and guidelines medically that the, CDC sets out, and then NCAA filters down to the Big Ten, and then we have everything we can do within the guidelines of the local level to be able to do a great job of keeping our guys safe. So, I know it's kind of a long answer because it's not simple at all. And we're trying to figure it out. We've never had this situation before. And so we're trying to go through and say, okay, how do you play this sport? It is going to affect the way we practice. There's going to be, I think, less tackling. in practice. We got to use sleds a lot. We got to use dummies a lot. We got to do a lot of things that are going to help us. Did I just get cut off? My screen just went away. Can you guys still hear me?
I can still hear you, Tom.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you see me? Because I can't see you.
We can see you.
Okay, good. I'm not sure what happened, but anyways, those things that affect how we practice. I see us doing more walkthroughs. I see us doing less, live goes together. We're going to have to maximize those kinds of things, I think, to prepare our football team to be able to play and to stay healthy throughout the season. So, but once again, you got to balance that with getting your body ready to play a Big Ten games, which is hard to do physically. So that continues to be, our objective and challenge, and all that wrapped up into one to try and figure this all out.
All right, John Blau, then Kevin Brockway.
I mean, obviously, you guys are not unique in terms of positive tests or having to shut down the Big Ten. It's happened elsewhere. But, I mean, how mentally prepared were you for the possibility of that happening when Brady Feeney happened and he had to go to the ER and he had some serious, side effects? I mean, you talked about it's your own personal responsibility to protect these guys. I mean,
yeah.
Kind of what was your reaction, and how have you kind of, again, talk to parents, talk to players to try to smooth this over and make sure that everybody's on the same page and that they understand?
Well, I think, it's hard. And it's, when you say my reaction, I was just like, you get this sick feeling in your gut, because you are responsible, and the parents trust you. And the thing that was really good was that we done everything the right way, but it just shows you, it's a highly contagious virus that we're dealing with, and that's why we've just tried to, limit as much as possible, guys getting exposed to it. And so, but when it happens, we have I think a very good plan in place to help our guys get the treatment that they need, and he had to go to the ER for a couple hours and be treated and all those things. And so that's what he did. And so, but you got to make those phone calls to parents and those are tough because, several of the guys that have been involved with this have been some of our younger guys. And so they just got here, their first time being away from home and being in college and with the team. And then, wham, that happens. So it can be stressful, and hard. And so communication is very important with our position coaches, our medical staff. We've had, a couple of Zoom calls with our entire parent group, which is over 100 parents and couples, and just trying to answer questions, and just try to, I think the more you can talk, the more they can ask. Cause we live in this so much, and I'm in all these meetings and I'm talking about this, and sometimes you forget, all the parents are getting is just, usually secondhand information from, what they read and what they know from the outside. And so those have been really, really good, and I just think it's just great to be able to keep that communication open, and they know they can communicate with us and have questions. And even last night, just a bunch of great questions. Some had good answers for, some we had to find some things out, and our medical staff answered most of them, to be honest with you. So, but I just feel like that communication, I think it creates more confidence, kind of creates a little bit less anxiety, but there's still uncertainties, and nobody, we can't promise any parent that their son isn't going to get the virus, and that's just, we got to do everything we can do to mitigate those risks. And that's what this has been all about, is following those protocols as closely and to the letter of the law as we can. And then when something happens, you got a plan in place and you execute the plan. And I think that creates confidence of our families to know, hey, we're doing everything we can do. And then when something happens, we're going to follow the steps we need to do to help them get back. And fortunately, Brady's been back with us, and which has been good. And so that's just part of it. Yeah, but I carry that weight, and it's been very, very stressful. Yes.
All right, Kevin Brockway, then Bob Kravitz.
Hi, Coach. I know on the Big Ten Network yesterday, you said you viewed kind of the schedule and the way it was laid out as a tremendous opportunity, and you've got 5 of your first 6 against teams that were ranked in the top 25 at the end of last year. I'm just curious, under normal circumstances, it would be a challenging time to get ready for camp. And I'm just curious about your thoughts about, getting ready for this kind of schedule under abnormal circumstances, what you have in front of you.
Yeah, there's no question that it's a tremendous opportunity, and that's how I view it. I was asked the question. That was my first initial reaction, just from my heart, from my gut, and I would absolutely answer it the same way today. And you're right, it would be challenging enough and under normal circumstances. But the key to all that is we're all in the same boat, and we've all had these, we're all dealing with the same virus. We've all had the same amount of time off. Now, granted, I will say, every school's had different, issues with it. Some schools came back sooner than others over the summer. And so there's not necessarily equality there, but we've all been dealing with it and all the unknowns, all the anxieties of what this situation has created. So, but at the bottom line was, as soon as we went to a conference only schedule, and really, I didn't know until they announced it to us yesterday morning exactly the order we would be playing in and who would be that 10th game if they had one, and how we decided. We talked about it, a lot of different things and had a lot of different discussions, but didn't know what the exact outcome was going to be until yesterday. And so, but now that you know what it is, there's no question. If you look at most people's schedules, there's going to be there's a window of opportunity and a window of time in everybody's schedule where it's going to be challenging. You got a lot of really good teams in this conference on both sides, and I know that the East has had a long history here recently of some really, really good teams, and several of them have been traditional, Big Ten powers for a long, long time. But man, the West has got some really good football teams, and too, there's no doubt about it. So you mix those two together, it makes for a challenging situation. So, but man, I just, I told it to our team, once we found out it was conference only, several weeks ago, about the opportunity that was going to create, no matter what they decided with the order or who that 10th game might be, if they did it that way. And so I felt like that our guys have embraced that, the chance to go out and win more Big Ten games than Indiana's ever won in the history of our program excites me without question. And so that's the way we're going to approach it. And just like every season, it's just one at a time. So right now, as we said, we're focusing on today, and you focus on eventually, when you get within the 2-week window of that, you focus on your first opponent. But right now it's focusing on this football team and getting us better today. And then we take the field tomorrow, a little bit better that day, and just build and build and build.
Bob Kravitz and Matt Cohn.
Hello, Tom.
Hey, Bob. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. I'm sure you've spoken to your team many, many times about how they need to handle themselves away from the facility. But now you've got the general student body returning to campus here very soon. 19-year-olds are going to do what 19-year-olds are going to do. What kind of conversations and messages have you sent to your players about life away from kind of the football bubble that you've created?
Sure. I think that's going to be a major, major challenge for every football team across this country once the students come back to campus. And we've got a very large student body here at Indiana, and they're going to have to understand that you just flat out cannot hang out with, go to, or be in environments where you're going to compromise the health that you have, because we're counting on you. And this is what the message to the team. We're counting on you. We've invested so much in this. We all have together, and we need each other. That's why we talked about the accountability in this program. That's the first thing we talk about: accountability, toughness, and love. Well, the first word in our core values is accountability, and to me, that's what this is going to be. It's going to take tremendous discipline to not go to certain activities and events that maybe you've done in the past. You're going to have to sacrifice that to be able to be a part of this football team. And honestly, we told them pretty up, there's going to be, if you choose to do that, there's going to be consequences, not just the obvious ones of getting infected, but we're not going to allow that. We can't, because there's too much that we put into trying to create a situation where we're trying to protect our guys. And so in some ways, it's unfortunate, but it's also the same challenge we have with our team. Like, you think about this. So we're trying to, we got 125 guys on this football team, and it takes a lot to build that chemistry. Well, how do you do that? You spend time with them, and you do things together with them. You have them over to your home as a coach. Well, we can't do that. We do things together. We would go, do team activities together. We haven't done any of those. We can't do any of those, even during fall camp. Couldn't do them over the summer. So the natural things that you want to do and that our players really enjoy, that's the part that really kind of is so tough, and we would go out and do some kind of a fun something, throughout fall camp. But we're going to have to, how do we creatively do that in small groups? and even then you got to have masks on, be 6 feet apart, so, you can't, you say you build a team by being close together and not by social distancing. So you kind of have two opposites trying to work together. And so we still want to build a team, but we got to do it in a different way. So I just think we got to appeal to LEO, which is we love each other so much. We care about each other so much that we're going to be disciplined and make the sacrifice it's going to take to stay away from those group gatherings, large group gatherings, parties, or what you want to define them as, where you're going to be around people that aren't on this football team. You just can't do it. Even with our own guys, they got to stay apart from each other, even when they are together. So is definitely, and I've said it for the last several months, that's going to be the biggest challenge of this whole COVID situation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Matt Cohen, and then Jeff Rabjohns. Sorry.
Hey, Coach. I don't think you guys have had any players actually opt out of the season yet. But I wanted to ask if A, that's a conversation that you've had with your team at all, and B, how you're addressing that with your players if anyone were to come up with you and discuss that.
Yeah, good question. It's obviously a national topic. There's been multiple athletes at the professional level that have chosen that direction. We have discussed it, had a lot more conversations with our administration. We have Big Ten head coaches talk about it, just trying to think about how do you handle, because there's not just, there's several different categories really you would kind of put into different situations why a young person would choose to do that. And so, but first of all, this is what I've told the parents last night, I told our team this many times, that if somebody doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel comfortable playing, then there's no pressure to do that. There's not. And if they choose to opt out or to sit out because of the fear of getting sick and don't want to infect somebody at home, or don't want to, have yourself infected by this, then, it's clearly stated by the Big Ten, by Indiana University, the NCAA, that those individuals would be able to keep their scholarship and be in good standing with the team. Okay, and that's clearly stated. And so we haven't anyone choose to do that. No, that's correct. We've had some discussion with some guys and just talked them through different things. I hopefully we're creating an environment here to where our guys feel comfortable saying, "Hey, Coach, I need to talk to you about something." And so we just either whether it's on the phone or we come in here and we sit down. I like to have those face to face and just talk it through, and whatever it might be. And I think that's when you trust each other and you really believe that their best interest is what I care the most about, which it is, and they believe that, they'll feel comfortable talking about it. And I get it, I really do. And I know there's all different reasons for that, and everybody has their, and I think we have to talk about talking to our players, but one of the biggest concerns they have is, hey, what if this season, we've already kind of had a very, choppy preparation, start, stop, be away, be here, different things. And then now you've got the unknowns about the season. And so more than anything, I think you just have to really, truly trust each other in the process, and just know that, as in a situation where a young man comes to us and has to decide if he wants to leave early for the NFL, we sit down and have those conversations, man to man, face to face with their families, and talk it through. I don't see this any different, and just as you go through this whole process of helping them kind of, manage all these unknowns and all these things that we've never dealt with before.
All right, Jeff, and then Mike Merritt.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Good to see you again, Jeff.
Hey, obviously we don't know if you're going to get to play, how many games you're going to get to play, whether there's going to be adjustments during the season. But when you look at this team, as a coach, you have to say, okay, if we play, we got to be prepared. Here's what we want to do well. How good can this team be if you guys get to play most of the season, all of the season, even if you just part of the season? How good do you think this IU football team can be?
Well, I think that's up to this team. When you look at us and you evaluate the players on this team, there's a lot of reason to be very excited about the number of young men that have played high-level football in this conference. Some guys for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And there's a large group of those guys on this team, both sides of the football and the special teams, and really the areas that are really critical, And so to me, that's exciting. But at the same time, every year is a new year. Every group's a new group. Every team has its own chemistry. Every team has its own identity and its own, just feel that they create as a team. And it's been a challenging process to develop that chemistry and develop that team, as we've already talked about. So I think that obviously, I said it in the past, I'll say it again, I have high expectations for this football team. How good can we be? That's up to them. How hard are they going to be willing to work every single day between now and when we kick off? And then once we start kicking off games and start playing, how much does it mean to them that they're going to be able to, stay away from things that are going to limit us from maximizing? Because I do think there's going to be the teams that can stay the healthiest and can weather all of this and manage the challenges of staying healthy and staying away from situations that would put and would compromise the health of your team, with the virus. That's going to be a variable. What teams can weather the challenges of a Big Ten only schedule. That's going to be another variable. Keeping our guys locked in and focused with all the distractions around them, all the different things, all the unknowns. That's going to be a variable involved here. So, but I do like the fact that we have an older, more mature team. You take the spring practices, and yes, those are negative that you don't have those, but we had all those bowl practices that were really, really huge for this football team. So I think that helps us for sure. It helps create optimism, but it does nothing to determine how we're going to play. We got to decide how the 2020 Indiana Hoosiers are going to be remembered. And to me, it's how did you approach today? We still got second half of this day of meetings and walkthroughs and all the things that we do to make sure that this first day was a great day, number one. And then number two needs to be better. Number three needs to be better. And when we put all those together, we got a chance to be a special football team, I believe.
All right, Mike Merritt, and then we'll finish up with a follow-up from Zach.
Hi, Coach. Thanks for doing this. You mentioned a minute ago that the choppy start to this whole thing, the start-stop. How much of a challenge as a coach is it to you try and keep some sort of consistency within that? And do you see that on the practice field?
Yeah, it was a big challenge, and definitely, I would say, to be honest, it was a frustration, and I'm a super organized guy that likes having everything done. I love routines. I like to keep things in a rhythm, and it was hard to get in a good rhythm. And as soon as we felt like we got the rhythm of doing things, then it got stopped. And so I just, I was frustrated by that. But at the same time, I think, the positive of it all is it really forced our guys to really individually be accountable for themselves. They had to, even when you are put in a situation where, even your whole quarantine, if you have a certain medical status, you can still individually work out. Can't do it here at the school. And that was what we did the entire time before we got here. So the guys that are disciplined and the guys that really have the ability to create that individual rhythm for themselves flourished during this time, even before we got back on campus. And then when we had a stoppage, they were able to continue to work and to train and do those things on their own. And so, but to not to have everybody together doing that is just tough, So I guess the whole thought here and answer here is the fact that obviously now that we're together, we got to maximize every minute and make sure that we create that rhythm right now and control what we can control, which is now we're back together. We're in fall camp officially. We're practicing now. We got no summer school classes right now. Summer school finished this past Friday. So the focus is completely on keeping them safe, getting ourselves mentally ready, getting ourselves physically ready to play this season. So we want to create that rhythm and that flow right now, and good Lord willing, that will be able to continue. I don't know what the future holds here, but we got to be able to continue to do the things the right way, protect this football team when we're off this field, so when we can come back together, we can do all the things that we love doing, which is playing this great game of football together.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, Zach, go ahead, wrap us up.
First of all, in solidarity with Bob Kravitz, I've put on my Hartford Whalers hat here. Two questions, Tom. I guess one's a follow-up on Brady Feeney. I think the understanding was that he'd kind of been cleared in terms of he was negative for COVID, but there'd been some after effects. Has he been cleared from that? Is he back to activity, or is he still dealing with kind of the after effects of that? And then the other question was just basically about the team coming out of workouts, going into fall camp. Are there some guys that maybe you're looking, it's just sort of the standard question of guys that maybe haven't been in big roles the last year or two that you think you really need to kind of step into bigger roles, maybe be kind of bigger performers for your team going into this season?
Yes, first of all, just can't say too many things. We don't talk about, players' health situations, but Bray's back with us, still working through everything, going through the protocols that he needs to go through to get back with us, and he's progressing through that. And then regards to guys, you know, there's no doubt. I actually made a list of guys. And then when I met with them, I made sure I said, okay, you're on this list of guys that you need to step up for us to have the kind of season I believe we can have at Indiana. And so there were guys in several different positions, you know, and one guy that comes to mind is I think Miles Marshall. I see him as a guy that I want to see him take his game to another level. You know, I went through and we watched the Purdue game again recently. I was going through and rewatching a bunch of games, and man, he made 3 really, really big, timely catches. And it was just like, okay, that was just show me. And if you look at the season, there was a lot of times where he made some contested, some difficult plays, you know, 3rd down, 4th down plays. So I want to see him elevate his game to another level. You know, I feel like that, you know, a guy like, you know, Caleb Jones, even though I know he started last year, continued to progress and develop and build and take more of a leadership role on with that offensive line. Harry Crowder being more of a leader. You know, he's a quiet guy. He's been a really consistent player for us. He's very solid. Now he's moved to center. He's played that position back and forth, guard center. But just to be an anchor, you know, you always think about being strong from the inside out. You know, a guy like Michael Penix from a leadership perspective. And that to me is a huge part of your football team. John King on the defensive line challenged him about, man, we need you to step up. You know, Lance Bryant's played a lot of football. Now I need him to really elevate his game. You know, even James Head, to be difference makers on this field and guys that create those negative plays, whether it's a pressure on the quarterback, a sack, a tip ball, or whatever, tackle for loss, that totally changes things. For me, that's huge. I think Cam Jones, ton of athleticism, hasn't played the position very long. Man, let's take that next step. Let's go from being a guy that we talk about having this huge ceiling. Let's now go realize that and just blow this thing up and just keep getting better and better and better. And, you know, I think a guy like Reese Taylor, Jalen Williams, those 2 guys, hey, man, you guys have tremendous athleticism and they've played really good football. Let's now take it to another level and have that consistency of every single play, every single game, you know, just elevating your play. And so those are some guys that just kind of jump out to me. There's the obvious guys that have played well, that need to continue to play well and keep getting better. That's how teams grow and develop. That's how you have you build off what we consider a really, really good season, you know, but, you know, we still, I focused on the ones that we still didn't finish. You know, the bowl game still just makes me sick about things that we didn't finish in that game. And so, but you continue to build off of those. And that's how you take a really good year and use that momentum and to create an even better following next year, even though now we got a whole different set of circumstances and challenges into that. But the key is going to be those individual guys elevating their game and changing the way the 2020 season goes.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate you guys. Have an awesome day. LEO.